The window to evacuate is about to close for those in the path of Hurricane Milton, which is now barreling toward Florida's west coast.
It's currently a Category 4 storm, and forecasters expect Milton to maintain that strength as it makes landfall in the overnight hours. As you can see, the outer bands have already reached Florida and Cuba. Experts say it has the potential to be one of the most destructive storms on record. And we've actually just got video in of a tornado that formed in South Florida. The National Weather Service says it was reported in South Florida between Naples and Fort Lauderdale. They add that it is a low population area, but it did cross the highway. There you see it. Many Floridians say they've never seen anything like this storm.
Now, as this hurricane is barreling down directly on our community, it feels like maybe Helene was just a rehearsal for what's to come. They're talking possible 15-foot storm surge. None of us in 100 years have seen anything like this. It is shocking.
Now take a look at this. This is the exodus well underway. We've been talking about this the past 24 hours. The traffic right now isn't the only problem. The website Gas Buddy is reporting that nearly a quarter of Florida's gas stations are now running out of fuel. And stores like this Tampa Walmart are just about out of everything. The Hillsborough County Sheriff has a message for those who plan to stay home. Don't do it.
This is the 11th hour. If you're in an evacuation zone, the time to get out is now. Here's my biggest fear. When those winds become sustained more than 40 miles per hour and it's too safe to go out to those emergency calls for help, that individual, I wonder how he's going to feel if he needs help and help's not coming.
CNN meteorologist Elisa Raffa has the latest on the storm's track. I mean, they have made it clear. Officials have made it clear, Elisa, this has the potential to be literally one of the most destructive storms that West Central Florida has seen. Just talk to us about what the impact is going to be. I mean, come Friday, Saturday, what are we going to see in places like Orlando and Tampa, of course?
We're really worried about that storm surge along the coast. That is the most devastating part, and that's what the officials are using all that strong language for, and it's keeping its intensity. It maintained Category 5 strength all night. It's a Category 4 right now with 145-mile-per-hour winds as it heads towards Florida. We've already had these outer bands coming in and already causing problems this morning with the destructive winds and some tornadoes as well. When you look at that track, again, we're still maintaining it as a strong major hurricane, a Category 3 or 4. The exact location of the eye will determine who gets the worst storm surge. Either it's Tampa Bay or areas to the south. So that needs to be watched closely, but we are looking at hurricane force conditions across the peninsula, widespread power outages and storm surge up and down the west coast. Here's a look at those tornado warnings, all of these kind of pink boxes here. This is common in a hurricane when you get these outer bands to come on shore. There's some friction with the land and you get these tornadoes to kind of spin up. So that's common. What is remarkable about this, though, is we're getting these discrete cells, but not small spin ups. We're getting large tornadoes that are capable of considerable damage. You can see we have those images of them. I mean, just look at some of these cells here across parts of Alligator Alley. It is incredible to see this tornado threat in this hurricane. The watch goes until 9 o'clock this evening, so this lasts through the day and then going into the evening hours. We have this front that's draped to the north, and that's what's steering Milton into the peninsula. Depending on the location of this front will really determine how far north or south that eye goes. What it also will do, though, is enhance that rain, especially on the north side here of the storm, kind of adding extra fuel to the fire, extra moisture for some heavy rain. It could also pick up the winds as well as it interacts with that front. So something to watch incredibly closely as the day goes on. But this is what we are incredibly worried about. 8 to 12 feet of storm surge in Tampa Bay, 10 to 15 feet just south of there. Ladies.
And a reminder, these storm surges that we're looking at right now are not survivable, which is why officials are so desperately urging people to leave now. It is not too late to leave your home. As Jake Tapper said on air yesterday, if you're watching this from home, turn it off and leave. Elisa Raffa, thank you. Get some water, too. Sorry about that. I know these are long days for you.
Don't apologize. You're fine. Don't apologize.
Well, Fort Myers, Florida is in the path of the storm, as we've been reporting, and our Carlos Suarez joins us there with conditions. What are you seeing behind you now? And please tell us you're not seeing many residents still in the area.
Zane and Biana, the winds have picked up out here and the rain has moved over us in the last hour or so. These are the earliest signs of Hurricane Milton that have moved across parts of southwest Florida. As you said, we are in Fort Myers. We're along the Caloosahatchee River, and we're keeping a close eye on it because 2 years ago, when Hurricane Ian made a direct landfall here in Lee County, the storm surge out here was 10 feet. And so everything that you see here behind me was underwater. It was damaged or destroyed by that hurricane. The amphitheater out in the background had to be rebuilt. The convention center to my right also had to be essentially built back from scratch because, again, the storm surge out here was 10 feet. Now, with Hurricane Milton currently still forecast to make landfall to the north of us, this part of southwest Florida is still expected to see a storm surge of anywhere between 8 to 12 feet. And so the folks out here in Fort Myers are dealing with the reality that although they're not getting a direct impact right now, at least from Hurricane Milton, they are going to see the type of flooding that they saw with Hurricane Ian just 2 years ago. You talked about whether folks are still out here. Yesterday, a curfew went into effect for 24 hours out in Fort Myers Beach. So folks out there were told that they had to get out. I was out there yesterday taking a look at how things looked then, and I can tell you it was pretty much a ghost town. In neighboring Sanibel, which was also destroyed by Hurricane Ian, there is also a mandatory evacuation. And so the folks were told, look, if you live on either of those parts in Lee County, you really have to make your way inland. Even where we are right now in Fort Myers, which you can see the rain has started to pick up, this here is also a mandatory evacuation zone. Yesterday, we were live a few blocks from where we are right now talking to residents and business owners there, and they were trying the best they can, putting up plywood on their businesses, putting up sandbags. One business owner put out an inflatable dam, filled it up with water, all in an effort to try to keep some of this flooding that we're going to see happen over the next couple of hours from taking place. And so that's kind of the situation right now from the ground. We expect this weather to get worse as the day progresses and into the night. And we're probably not going to see the worst of this when it comes to the flooding until overnight into tomorrow morning. And that's because the storm surge, the rainfall, and then high tide is not going to happen until around 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. And those water levels are not expected to recede until tomorrow morning. Ladies?
Yeah. We see the rain around you there, and obviously there have been reports of pretty significant tornadoes already before the storm actually hits. Carlos Suarez in Fort Myers, Florida, please stay safe. Thank you.
Right, let's pivot to Orlando now. Orlando International Airport has suspended all commercial flights. We know that Disney World is set to shut down in the coming hours. Let's bring in CNN's Victor Blackwell, who is joining us from Orlando. So by the time it gets to Orlando, it should have weakened quite a bit, but Orlando is expected to experience heavy rain. Just walk us through what people are stocking up on at this point, Victor.
Well, let me start with that rain because we got an advisory. Actually, it's a warning, flood warning from the National Weather Service out of Melbourne, which is here in Central Florida, that they say parts of Orange County, where I am, Osceola, Volusia, Broward counties, that there's a flood warning that for the next few minutes at least, that's when it expires, that the inch or two of rain that's already fallen here is starting to swell some creeks and some low-lying flood-prone areas. They say that flooding is either imminent or occurring. So for many areas, this is not about what is coming, it is happening now, and the ground is saturated. So imagine once those forecast 15 inches of rain come into this area, of saturated ground, we're going to see some intense flooding. So here's what we're seeing here at the Home Depot. The traffic really picked up while it was raining here. We're getting a brief break here, but I wouldn't put it past this system for it to rain during this hit. The flashlights, the generators, the plywood, all of that is coming out of Home Depot here. They're open until 3 o'clock, and we're just seeing the last few hours of prep before this storm comes in. The Orange County Sheriff's Office is tweeting out, endorsing the recommendations from the local forecasters, saying be in your safe space, by 2 p.m. So we're a little under 2 hours from that local time. The Emergency Operations Center here goes into full activation at 4 p.m. this afternoon. The mayor here, Buddy Dyer, says that this area has been through storms before, obviously, but it's been quite a long time since there's been something this broad and this strong coming through Central Florida. You've got three groups of people here, actually. You've got the tourists who are here trying to evacuate, get out of the path of this storm. You've got the evacuees who are coming from Southwest Florida inland to get away from the storm surge, and the locals who are here buying up those last-minute supplies to ride out the storm. The worst of it, as you heard from Carlos, overnight into the early hours of Thursday. Zane, Deanna?
Yeah, we see that parking lot pretty full now, as you said. The store behind you, Home Depot, scheduled to close in just a few hours. People stocking up on the last moment. Victor Blackwell, thank you.